Welcome to the September 11th, 2019 Planning Board meeting of the Town of Raymond. The Planning Board will come to order. Can we please have a roll call?
Mike D'Angelo.
Greg Foster.
Bruce Sanford.
Ed Kranich.
Kyle Bancroft.
Kevin Woodbury.
The board has a quorum. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are presented. Please notify the chair if you are unable to see or hear. The board works from a published agenda and will be considering tonight's items in the following order. We have one item, and that's the Keystone Investment Group additional duplex residential apartments proposed for 1455 Roosevelt Trail. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinances or state law. All persons speaking, including representatives of the applicant and members of the public, are asked to stand at the microphone, state their name, address, and affiliation with the application. For, oppose, neutral. All persons speaking shall address the chairman. Any conversation must be held in abeyance until after the board has formally adjourned. After the board votes on the merits of each application, it will prepare a written notice of decision. Because the notice of decision may substantially affect any appeals rights, and also as a matter of courtesy, the board asks that those attending the meeting with regards to a specific application not leave until the board has completed its discussion. Appeals from adverse decisions must be filed with the Superior Court or as otherwise provided by law within 45 days of the board's decision. Also, to be certain that you preserve your individual right to file any such appeal, you must be certain that the board's record evidences your appearance this evening in opposition and the basis for your opposition. Okay, new business, we have Keystone Investment Group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Justin Rome. I'm a civil engineer with DM Roma Consulting Engineers here tonight, representing Keystone Investment Group, LLC. The application is for sketch plan review on 2-acre piece of property located at 1455 Roosevelt Trail. Property currently has a existing two-family duplex structure on it, which is the kind of the light brown building you see in the middle of that diagram there. There's two other structures on the property that are outbuildings. One's a garage and a shed structure. Again, the lighter colors there. The lighter gray color represents the existing driveway that comes in and serves the development. So there's 2 levels to this existing duplex building. So there's a parking area on the lower level, and there's a driveway that comes up around to the upper level for parking up there as well. The proposal is to add an additional duplex building on the rear part of the property. We're going to be widening out the driveway to accommodate two-way vehicles and emergency vehicles better, get it out to 20 feet wide, and we're going to add parking spaces to the pavement extension in the back. We're adding 6 spaces there because we're kind of displacing a couple of vehicle parking spaces where they try to use them. They have exclusive use to that driveway in the back, so that's going to now be a kind of a dedicated driveway for additional dwellings. So we're adding those spaces to the bank of parking in front of the new building. This applicant is the same applicant that came forward and proposed the 2 duplexes on the lot to the east of this, which the board had approved. So that project hasn't started yet, but this is kind of a similar arrangement. But in this case, the building is going to stay, where in the other case we were having 2 brand new structures. We've had a septic system designed in this location right here. If you recall, the replacement leach field on this property is in this location, so we've got kind of the 2 septic systems in the same general area here, with the wells kind of flanking on the outsides over here. So keeping those on the outside, septic's in the middle. This site is much less steep than the other site was. I know we had some concerns about grade on the other site. We do continue to climb up the hill here, but we have a much flatter transitional period along the roadway. And then, you know, we have a slightly steeper area here, but none of this driveway is as steep as what was next door, so it's a better situation. Stormwater still remains to kind of just come down the hill. We're going to kind of divert it around the outside of this building here. As it's coming down the hill, we're going to direct it over to a level spreader in this area. This area is predominantly grass area. It's not as heavily wooded as the other site was. So we are sizing this out as a meadow buffer, even though there are some trees down through there. But we're using the meadow buffer methodology, which requires longer berms and a longer flow path length for that. So again, we're directing as much water as we can coming down the hill into that buffer area. This is the existing leach field for this lower building, which is going to stay. So this new leach field is only going to serve the new dwelling. Other than that, it is a somewhat similar project to what was right next door to it, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
We received comments from our staff. Do we want to address those, Jim?
Yeah, we looked at this, and to Dustin's credit, it's very almost identical to what we had just approved on the abutting property, so a lot of the comments are very similar in nature. Based on the sketch plan, we'll need to show proof of the wastewater system. And the only other question I had with that, similar to the other side, was do you think we'll need to build or drill an additional well? Because I know before we weren't sure whether we had capacity, so if we do, we just got to make sure we got adequate separation between that and the septic. And I don't know if there's anything with the two septic systems being close, if there's any separation requirement. I don't think there is, but okay.
No.
To your point, I know you've got a buffer. We didn't see that on the initial sketch, so we'll want to see how you're going to handle erosion control and stormwater runoff. Sounds like we have a plan in place for that. I think the biggest issue, though, is that even though the grade's not as steep, I do think that, and maybe in the fire department's comments, which we received, there may be some concern about the amount of area we have to turn around a fire truck. They were going to utilize that access to the garage as part of the fire truck turnaround. I don't know if that's long enough for the fire department. I think they have a similar comment of concern, so that may be something we just need to look at or maybe work through with the fire department. As far as it goes with this design, we'd be looking for the very same designs we did before, 20-foot wide paved width with small shoulders. I assume there'll be some kind of association, or whether that be all under one ownership for the maintenance.
Yeah, single ownership, right?
Single ownership, okay. We'll want to see utility connections, services. Right now it's overhead power to the existing duplex. I think we prefer to see underground, but we just need to know if you're going to drop a pole in or how you're going to get it to that other duplex. I don't know what the condition is. I haven't been up there, but I know we were going to replace the other culvert on the other driveway. I'm guessing that these probably are similar in age. I don't know if it's what the condition is, but we're probably going to have to extend that, and that's just be something to take a look at the condition. Does it warrant to add another section of pipe, or do you need to replace the whole thing? That's the same as we had before on the other one. Talking to the fire inspector Wayne, I think he's looking to have the existing duplex sprinkled. Definitely the new duplex will need to be sprinkled as part of our fire protection ordinance. And then just delineating parking spaces and making sure we have enough parking spaces. And then obviously, similar to the other one, is we'll just need to confirm what the E911 address will be for this, for these units. I'm guessing, what do they do on the other ones? A, B, C, D?
I'm not sure if they've been addressed yet.
Probably wouldn't until we got a permit.
Have the same address? I don't know how
Well,
that's
we'd have
going.
we'd have to talk with the 911 addresser, and we'd probably have to see what would work for up in there.
Yep.
Usually when we get a building permit before it can be released, we give it a address at that time and make sure it's okay with the fire department as well.
And if that, we've been talking about that as one of the changes going forward for new applications, is trying to get the addresses for multi-units or subdivision lots on the plan. So if we can, it'd be great to look at that so we can get it on the plan. It just makes everybody's life a little easier up front when we're trying to assess utility connections or locations and just general, knowledge of the location. So that's all we have. I mean, these comments are almost identical to what we faced with the other site. The good thing is to Dustin's note, the driveway is not as steep as the other one.
Okay, this application didn't come in time to meet the deadline for public hearing?
No, I don't think they had, it'll be the
anything like that,
next,
so
when they
it'll be
come in,
next meeting?
I think he's planning on coming in.
Correct. Yeah,
Very
so-
soon, and the next meeting would be the public hearing for this.
Okay, so tonight we can't take any action even as far
No,
as
but you can
accepting
have
the
an open
application, but
dialogue.
we can, the board is, welcome to ask any questions or anything that needs to be clarified.
I've got one question. How are you handling plan on handling the sheet flow to the west as it approaches that existing driveway that may not be long enough for the fire truck? Are you going to put a storm drain in to the north and run a pipe underneath it, or just kind of trench down and run a culvert underneath that driveway, or what?
Yep, so the initial idea here was to just basically just run the water over the pavement area and let it continue to run down the road and then get it off the road this way. So that was our initial intent. This plan wasn't in your packets, but I just brought it with me tonight just to kind of facilitate some of these questions. So that was our initial intent, was to just bring the water around the building here and then just run it over the driveway and then get it off the pavement quickly, in this area, and then bring it to the level spreader. Because this would be a pretty long culvert to get underneath all that area.
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like it'd probably be, 35, 40 feet long.
To your point though, Bruce, I know on the other one, we had a discussion in the back of those units about an under drain, because you have all that water coming off the back of the hill. So
Right.
maybe that might, lead us to make some kind of drainage improvement.
Something, I'm just concerned that all that water running across the driveway in a freeze condition is just gonna be it's gonna be a slippery mess.
Okay.
You might wanna think about that a little bit.
That's a good point.
Oh, and as far as the driveway not being long enough to the garage, it's up to you to design it. I'm just wondering if you could just shift all those 6 parking spaces 9 feet to the right and lengthen the driveway by 9 feet, and you'd probably have a 40-foot approach to the front of the garage instead of 30 feet.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way we kind of looked at it, and we'll make sure the fire department's okay with this. I mean, we thought this was going to work for most apparatus. If you had a ladder truck or something that came up in there that needed big space, certainly, this area here, as long as we strike this out so that this area remains a fire lane in front of the building. The thought was that, this could be used if
Oh, back down to
absolutely
that
necessary.
area.
Because that way no one's backing out onto the
As
road.
opposed to just pulling
As
into the
opposed
front
to
of the
doing this,
garage and backing up.
You could back into this space and then come right out that way.
Well, that's up to the FD to.
Yeah, and I think the thing too, with that lower parking lot, we'd have to see how it's striped too, so what you
Yep.
have for a lane that's left after, because people park on both sides of that, you may not end up with much of a
Yeah, and then
lane.
particularly with the water control, if that's a frozen condition in the middle of the winter, so that's all the more reason to consider how we're gonna handle the water coming off the hill. Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments on it? Okay, do we have any other communications from Jim?
Not at this point. The only thing is, I know Bob's not here. One of the things, if he were here, he'd be looking to see how you guys are working on your comments about the road connectivity. ordinance revisions that we're looking at. I know we've been busy, so we haven't done our homework either, but I think that's something that when he gets back, he's gonna be, poking the bear to get some initiation on that. And coming into the fall is typically when we start looking at our ordinance revisions. So along with that, if there's other ordinances that you think that need some sprucing up or have questions about, now's the time to start asking those questions. And we'll probably plan a workshop,
Because I got a few.
towards the end of the year. We'll have a workshop where we can start ironing out the program for ordinance changes or anything we want to do with ordinances going into 2020.
Okay, sounds like we all have a little homework.
Yeah.
Look at that
Yeah.
and see what we come up with.
Yeah, and with regards to this, I know on the other site, we did a site walk. I don't know if you want to do a site walk for this applicant. I think we have a good sense of what's out there now. I don't think it's necessary.
Seems like it has less challenges than the
Yeah,
other one.
yeah, so.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Do we need to move the table this, or is it not really?
It's not even an application. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just an informal discussion at this point. I think the only question I'd have for Dustin is, when are you planning on, when are you gonna have that application ready?
Yep, we were planning to drop it off today, but where we had the meeting tonight, we wanted to kind of make sure that, there was any other last minute questions, so we're going. Yeah, so we'll have everything in submitted by the end of the week, so we'll be on for the next meeting.
Yep. If the board's fine with that, we'll put it on for the next meeting. I don't think there's a whole lot here that,
No, it's pretty straightforward.
okay.
Okay,
I move we adjourn.
Second.
18 minutes, that's
all in favor?
not your record, but it's pretty close.
Motion passes, we're adjourned.